If you're somebody who's been doing fitness-based classes like, let's say, Orange Theory, studio workouts, 9-round F45, all these things that have gained lots of popularity over the last couple of years, then you may be wondering if this whole circuit training is really ideal for building muscle. Or maybe you're not doing any of those and you're still wondering the same thing, because there's still a lot of people out there that do say that it is. Well, in my second installment here of the Fat Loss versus Muscle Gain series, we're going to be covering circuit training. What's the deal with it? What's good, YouTube? Coach John back again, representing the gains. Hope you all having an amazing day. Thanks so much for stopping by. If you haven't yet, make sure you hit the subscribe button, the bell notification, and hit that like button for me as well. As I can just tell you right now, it's gonna be a good one. Also, if you are interested in fat loss, I have a free case study video that I put together that is crazy valuable for you. You can check that out in the description down below. Make sure you check out the rest of the content on this channel. It's exclusive to my YouTube channel, and follow me on my Instagram here. Shoot me any questions or topic ideas that you may have, and I'll be sure to respond. So let's go ahead and talk about the topic at hand, circuit training. And by the way, any and all studies that I use to back up any points that I make in this video, I will be linking at the bottom of the description in case you wanted to read further. Let's talk about what circuit training really is. Circuit training is essentially combining resistance style training, or really any different types of exercises, could even be cardio machines, variations of cardio machines, in one sort of a round where you're not resting from one exercise to the next. Now, like I mentioned before, Orange Theory and these other studio-based, class-based fitness workouts like to incorporate a lot of these weight training exercises with dumbbells or barbells in cases, and they do like to boast how, well, because we're using weights, it's great for muscle gain and muscle retention, which, by the way, is very important for fat loss. So again, these exercises are done back to back with very little, if not no rest at all. And the purpose of this is that it's going to jack your heart rate all the way up. And so as a result, you burn a lot of calories. And don't get me wrong, I was a coach at Orange Theory for about 2 years. I love the workouts. I think they're great for overall fat loss because of calorie burn, and for cardiovascular fitness. Super good. I can't speak so much for the other ones, but as far as I know, they're based roughly around the same concepts. And like I mentioned, muscle retention or muscle gain is essential if you want to lose fat instead of just losing weight. You see, losing weight could include muscle and other lean body mass that usually leads to seeing the number on the scale go down, but not looking much better, if at all. Whereas if you isolate and burn the fat, which is done via resistance training that helps you build and sustain muscle, then you actually look better, feel better as you get leaner. And now, unfortunately, I hate to say it, I hate to say this right off the bat, but circuit training is far from ideal if you want to build or retain muscle mass. You see, from an exercise physiological standpoint, circuit training is not optimal or really meant to stimulate the muscle to grow in the specific way we want it to actually see results in that regard. So let's break it down. How do you actually gain muscle mass and strength for that matter? Well, typically you need to be doing certain exercises at intensities, meaning certain amount of heavy loads, heavy enough that where you do the exercise, it's going to land you somewhere between the 6 to 12 rep range for the most part. Of course, less than this is also possible as you lean more towards strength gain, and it's still a good idea to incorporate some higher rep training sets in there as well. Even between 20 to 30 reps can be beneficial in some cases. The key there is that every set you're trying to use the maximum load you can within those rep ranges. And so what does that mean? It means you have to rest an adequate amount between those sets to make sure that you do that. So for example, if you do a 100-pound bench press, I know not the most exciting thing, but let's just say 100-pound bench press, and you do it for sets of 12, but you won't be able to do one set of 12, go do 3 other exercises back to back, come back and do another set of 12 with the same weight. And the reason for this is because when you're doing circuit training and you're going back to back with no rest in between, you're actually activating a different energy system, okay? When you're building muscle, the primary energy system, one of them, it's a sublet of this energy system, is the anaerobic. I don't want to get too technical about it, but the anaerobic system is what you work when you're doing intentional muscle gain resistance training. But if you start getting your heart rate way too high as you do in circuit training, you're actually involving the the aerobic energy system, which will then interfere with the maximum potential you can milk out of the anaerobic system, and therefore lowers the stimulus on the muscle, doesn't allow you to hit those reps and that volume, that intensity over and over again. And so you'll see how this actually starts to become more of a cardiovascular and fat loss type of exercise as opposed to a muscle gain or muscle retention type of exercise. A great example of this would be doing squats with a relatively heavy weight. So let's say you do squats with a pretty heavy weight that you can only hit for 12 reps. If you go and you hit that set for 12 reps, chances are you're going to feel quite a bit of strain on your cardiovascular system. And a lot of times when doing these very high rep sets, you need lots of rest before doing the next set, because if you don't, you will be so fatigued, since your body's trying to recover with the cardiovascular system at play there as well, that if you go right into the next set, you won't be able to hit the same amount of reps. And the goal is to do exactly that, because if you just keep hitting less and less reps, you're not going to adapt as quickly as you could, or you're just not simply going to put enough volume, enough stimulus on the muscle to see it grow. So that is the fundamental problem with circuit training. Again, it's something that's meant to raise your heart rate, and another benefit of it, don't get me wrong, it still can be great, it still has its place, as we'll mention in a bit. Another benefit is that it does actually help with lactic acid threshold. So when you're doing weight training with dumbbells, you may feel sore the next day, and you do definitely feel a pretty big burn when you're actually going through the exercise, but this is not to be confused with a muscle gain. Just because the muscle is burning, it doesn't mean that it is optimal for muscle gain. In fact, if you are a complete beginner, circuit training with weights will lead to some muscle and strength gain as neuromuscular adaptations happen. But again, it's very limited. The ceiling is very short on the actual potential of muscle you can gain doing it, because your body's going to adapt very quickly to it. You're going to have a better lactic acid threshold, but you're just not using enough load that you need to build muscle. Let's put it this way. You do not see somebody who has a lot of muscle mass, let's say pro bodybuilder, power lifters, and so on, without them lifting very heavy weights. So with that said, of course, there are the pros that I mentioned about circuit training, but if you've been told that it is great for muscle gain or even retention, which again is important for fat loss, then unfortunately that is not the case, as it leans a little bit more towards the aerobic system than you would like to see for an appropriate hypertrophic, aka muscle gain response, that's actually going to lead to muscle gain. And something else is that it actually kind of begs the question, if you're going to use circuit training, or if circuit training's primary benefit is to burn calories, elevate the heart rate, and improve lactic acid threshold, well, if your goal is really just fat loss, the lactic acid threshold may be something that you don't really care much about, and so it may actually just be better to stick to a straight, regular cardio type of an exercise on a treadmill or a different machine, something along those lines. You see, because also circuit training requires more equipment usually, can be a lot more complex, and so for that reason, if you actually look at it from a fat loss, calorie burn perspective, it is not actually better than just doing regular cardio. However, there is a part that fits in that if you don't want your training to get stale, maybe you don't enjoy doing cardio, I think it's a great idea to have circuit training in there as something that maybe you find a lot more fun, which will actually get you to do the cardio in the first place, because remember, adherence is king. Now, some people may refer to CrossFitters also and think, well, you know, look at these CrossFitters, they basically do circuit training and look at how much muscle they have. Well, again, this comes back to looking at them. They lift massively heavy weights for the most part, at least the elite level ones do, through Olympic lifts, massive compound lifts, and they're doing it for lower rep ranges. They don't do as much circuit training as it may appear that they do, and so they're able to actually build strength up over time. Like, let's face it, when you train for power, it's different than training for strength. When you train for strength, it's different than training for muscle mass. When you train for muscle mass, it's different than training for stamina. When you train for stamina, it's different than training for endurance, and so on. These are all different parts of the spectrum. Power and maximum velocity is all the way on this side. Stamina, endurance is all the way on the other side. Circuit training falls more towards this side, whereas strength and hypertrophy falls a little bit more on this side. So again, that would be a very clear illustration as to how circuit training will actually not benefit you that much when it comes to building muscle. So what are my recommendations here, and what's the point I'm getting at? The point is, I recommend that everybody, whether you're looking to lose fat and increase your heart rate, that's fine. mind. I think building muscle and doing intentional muscle gaining weight training is important because, of course, there is countless benefits of having more muscle and having stronger ligaments and joints and so forth. And so for that reason, I definitely recommend that you have some days that are solely dedicated, or some workouts that are solely dedicated towards muscle gain or retention. Of course, nutrition and all that has to be on point as well. And having cardio on the side, whether that be circuit training or just regular cardiovascular exercise, I think is the good balance where you get the best of both worlds. So that's pretty much the difference for circuit training and how it applies to either fat loss or muscle gain. I hope that you found it helpful. If so, hit the like button. If you want to see something else on the channel, make sure you comment below and respond to me in the comments. Let me know what else you'd like to see, how you're liking this series so far, and I'll be sure to make some more content for you. Thanks again for watching. Love y'all, appreciate y'all. Hope you have an awesome day. And again, don't forget to share with your friends, subscribe, because I'm dropping videos every damn week. You don't want to miss the next one. I'm out.